Welcome back to FastFreddyRC, and today we're going to do an unboxing video of the Tamiya Rising Fighter. Now, the reason I've brought this kit to the channel is I've decided it's time to do a true beginner build video series again. So I was taking a look at all of the kits that are available through Tamiya at this point, and I thought, what buggy out there would be a really good beginner kit for somebody that's brand new, wants something that's going to be relatively easy to build, and also has, you know, maybe some better features versus other kits that are out there. And out of all of them, I'm seeing the Rising Fighter as really a great beginner kit, even over and above the Tamiya Grasshopper. And I'll tell you why. The Rising Fighter actually sits on the Grasshopper 2 chassis. So if you liked the Grasshopper and you wanted to get a Grasshopper 2, there are some differences. And one of the things is they have larger coilover shocks. They're still friction shocks, but the gearbox, instead of this being an up and down motion, the Grasshopper 2 has what's called a rolling rigid rear axle, so it actually will do side-to-side motion, basically the same setup that's on a Hornet. So it will go up and down, but it will go side-to-side as well. But there's another thing. All of the Grasshoppers, whether you get the Grasshopper 2, or the Grasshopper 2 Black Edition, any of the cars that are a Grasshopper family, they come with a 380 motor. The Rising Fighter is on that same Grasshopper 2 chassis, but it comes with a 540 motor. So you get a bigger motor in the Rising Fighter kit. So this will be faster than the Grasshopper. The other thing is, other than the fact that the Grasshopper 2 comes with oil-filled shocks, the other two, just the Grasshopper 2, they come with the same coilover friction shock, just like you see here. They have a slightly bigger friction shock on the rear, but the Rising Fighter comes with large friction shocks, and you can see here they're a much larger shock front and rear. And so in terms of the design, these ones are very basic. Like, it's basically a screw pin screwed into the bottom, and a coil spring is over top of that. So it gives you quite a bit of bounce. These shocks are going to be a little bit better. I mean, obviously the next step would be oil filled, but this will be a better shock versus what's on an original Grasshopper or Grasshopper 2. So looking at that, those two things are very different. The other thing is, just like the Grasshopper, if you're somebody that's new enough that you don't want to get involved with painting, this kit is molded in the blue, so you can make the car box art. And for the purposes of the build series I'm about to do with this, I am going to leave it stock. I want this stock, and I'm not going to be painting the body. You could if you wanted to. It's not like the Holiday Buggy, which is made of a completely different plastic and you're really not supposed to paint it. I know other people have figured out ways to do it, but it basically says in the instructions the body's not paintable. This, on the other hand, is. So if you don't want it in the blue, you certainly could paint it in what other color you want. But when I was getting started in RC, I didn't want to have to paint, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't want to get involved with that. So for this is a great starter kit because you get the Grasshopper 2 chassis, you get larger friction shocks, you get a 540 motor as opposed to any of these kits that are only on a 380, and you don't have to paint the body. It's already molded in that color. So all you have to do is put the decals on. So for me, this seems to be, just in kind of researching all of the different ones, and depending on how easy you want the kit to be built, this Rising Fighter kit seems to be your best bet for building a Tamiya vehicle with as little problems as possible. Let's put it that way. This comes with a lot more in the kit. You're not having to paint. So overall, this seems like a really, really good kit as a starter kit for anyone getting involved with RC. Now you do have to remember that these are build kits. They're not ready to run. So you still are gonna need a radio. You're still gonna need an ESC if it doesn't come with one, an electronic speed controller. And you're still gonna need a battery, and you're still gonna need a charger. And those items are definitely on top of this. But as a kit, this seems to be a fantastic starter kit. Now, obviously you can see here, I do use this a fair bit. I love the Grasshopper. It's so much fun with its uncontrollability, basically, because it's bouncing all over the place. Because this has the Grasshopper 2 chassis, and we've got the side-to-side motion, and we've got the faster motor, this may very well be not as controllable either, but we'll see. The point is, though, I know you've seen videos that I have of this running. I'm going to do the very same thing with this kit, and then we can kind of do a direct comparison, because literally this is a Grasshopper 2 chassis, just with a few extras, including that motor. So if you are interested in getting into RC, you're interested in a buggy, and you've been thinking what would be the best kit to go for, I definitely would suggest this kit, simply because you are getting an upgraded Grasshopper chassis, the Grasshopper 2, and you're getting that larger motor. So there's more value in this kit versus this. But if you were here for nostalgia, obviously the Grasshopper. Anyways, let's get to the unboxing. And again, I'm going to be doing a whole build series for beginners with this kit. So we're going to be going through this a lot more detailed than some of the other builds that I have. But anyways, let's get to the unboxing. Okay, so normally I would say that I've taken the plastic off already to make the unboxing easier. But in actual fact, with this kit, it didn't come pre-shrink wrapped. And part of that's because if you notice on the box, there isn't the marking that says that it includes an ESC, which is usually put in by the different retailers, and then they shrink wrap it. Well, in this case, it's come straight from Tamiya without a speed controller, so it's not shrink wrapped. So we can just actually unbox this, and let's see what we've got. Okay, so very, very cool. You can see that we have our body, which is now pre-painted, pre-molded in the blue. Very, very cool. And I actually like the body color, so I don't mind doing this box art, which of course is my plan. But I think that looks really, really cool. That's awesome. So then we have our wheels. So here are the front and back. You can see the front are narrower and the back are a little wider. Very cool. And then of course here we do have our tires. So you can see that we've got the square studded tires for the rear. And then you have the ribbed tires on the front. Very much like what is already on the Neo Fighter, for example. So very, very cool. There's our tires. And then here, what we've got are some parts, and you can see that these pieces here are for the back end, where there'll be a spring, so that gives you the side-to-side motion on the axle. Very, very cool. And then here, you can see that we have our axle parts, where we're going to build our differential and everything that's included inside the axle itself. Very, very cool. And then this one, you can see it looks like this is your battery door, which is actually different because it's held on by pins as opposed to the usual Grasshopper setup. And we've got plates. These are for the front suspension. We've got the front suspension arms. Looks like we've got a motor plate. These pieces here are for the axle, and then the shock is going to be attached to there. Very, very cool. And it looks like these are maybe part of the shock housings. Interesting. Very cool. And then, of course, we have our bathtub frame. So again, this is the Grasshopper 2 chassis. Very interesting. And I can see that the back end is done differently to the usual back end of the Hornet and Grasshopper. So that's different. It's attached to the back different. The Grasshopper itself used to have something where the piece would slide into there, and then you'd use screws from the bottom to screw into it. It looks like this is done from the side, as you can see. Interesting. Well, but that's our bathtub chassis. And that's it for the main parts. So now we're just into the bag of all of our extra goodies. So you can see here, there is our bumper. And this bag here, well, there we go. There is bag A. And it looks like we've got some steering arm connectors, some springs, zip straps. We've got grease. We've got our, you can see we've got our front arms in there and a whole bunch of screws. And it looks like a piece of double-sided tape. Very, very cool. So that's bag A. Then here, I don't actually know what those are for, although it looks like they're probably part of something for the gearbox, because that one looks like something you would put a bearing into. And that's a motor plate that sits on the other side of where the motor sits. That's interesting. But I don't actually know what those are, so we'll see as we go. Then, of course, we have our driver figure, and we have our servo saver pieces. Very cool. And then here we have our differential gears, spur gears, counter gears, etc. And then this piece here, which I don't actually know what that is for. Can't think of what that is. Oh, it looks like it's probably the top of the differential. But we'll see as we go. Very, very interesting. And of course, like I said, this kit comes with a 540 motor. The Grasshopper, Grasshopper 2, Grasshopper 2 Black Edition, any of the Grasshoppers come with a 380 motor. The Rising Fighter comes with a 540. So that's already a nice upgrade just by getting a Rising Fighter instead of a Grasshopper. Very, very cool. Then it looks like we have this separate bag with a few screws and this piece here, which might be like an antenna top, just so that it's protecting something, I guess, and the screws. Interesting, not seen that before. And then here we go. Here are our friction damper pieces for both the front and the rear. Very cool. And last but not least of the bag stuff, we've got bag B. And you can see that we have some other springs. We've got the shafts. We've got the bevel gears. And of course, it comes with plastic bushings, which if you've been following along on a lot of my other kits, I will be replacing those with a full ball bearing kit. Of any of the things that you might want to do with in terms of upgrading your kit, ball bearings really are a must. And again, if you're planning on buying this kit, this is your first kit, you want it to last, you know, you may not be getting another one for a long time, whatever the reason being, if you put in a full set of ball bearings, it will definitely make it so that your kit lasts longer than if you didn't. So I highly suggest putting ball bearings in your kit. Then of course you've got the plastic antenna tube. We've got some pieces here, and it looks like, what's this all about? Gearbox. This must be a separate piece that they've put in. Oh, please note that a new part code for part C has been issued in conjunction with the change to a more rigid plastic material. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so this is something we're going to need to look at when we get to that step. And then we have our instruction manual. Very, very cool. And, you know, I've said this before, Tamiya really does an incredible job with their instruction manuals because they're so well detailed, very well laid out. They really are incredible. So I always find it a joy to put these things together because you can really see how much detail they put into these manuals. But very, very cool. Yeah, this is going to be a fun build. And, of course, the last thing here, we have our decals. And I have to admit, I really like the decals for this kit. Now, what's interesting, we'll see as we go along. I'll show you how to cut the decals if you need to, just to clean them up a bit more than maybe what they are. Because it's looking like these, to be honest, are pre-cut. And if they're pre-cut decals, if I can zoom in there, you can see there's cut marks along the decal itself. If that's the case, these are going to be even easier to put on, which again, as a more of a beginner kit, that's probably the way you'd want to do it anyway. Very, very cool. Awesome. So that is the unboxing of the Tamiya Rising Fighter. So if you're planning on following along, please like, subscribe. Make sure you click that notification button because the videos will come out step by step, and I will be doing them step by step to make it easier for you to, find what you need when you're, if you have an issue, you can find the step right away. But if you're building along with me, you'll get tips and tricks along the way to make sure that when you finish building this, it's really going to perform the way that you hoped. So very, very cool. So that is the unboxing. So thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see you in another video.